I don't know if any of you will know the answer, but it's something that I've always wondered. I'm very into politics, and I just finished my master's project last semester, and it was just a political guidebook. But I'd asked this in my 670 class. Do you think that creative problem solving could help the economy problems and all that other stuff if they were to sit down in Congress or just in the Senate and have people come in and teach them how to do this? Do you think that that would kind of stimulate this economy and try and find what our main problem is? I don't know.
I just have to say, this is just kind of funny. This just shows how empowered I felt when I left the program.
Yeah, it does.
I seriously felt like, and I do think that it could, I could certainly impact it. But my mind was going like, well, wow, maybe I could write a letter to, so-and-so and say that, I am sort of maybe for, but here's this person, and did you know I have my master's? Did you even know you could get your master's in creativity? Well, this is what I can do for you, and there was not even any feeling of, shame at all. Like, this is, how dare this person do this, I really felt like I could tackle the world. And I think that's an incredible gift that the program gives us. But anyway, it kind of made me chuckle because I have thought about that. Yeah, and I think that could be a niche for you. I think that's an incredible path that you should
We'll
follow.
watch you go do that.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yes.
But even, no matter, it could be the government or it could be whatever organization you're in. Because you go, no matter what organization you're in, there's things that don't work. There's wheels that don't turn. And if you can be that person, if you can get into a spot where people will listen and let you facilitate, you can make a difference, whether it's a government or whether it's, some little organization or a school or whatever. Why not? Any group of people coming together using the process can make a difference.
It's funny that we're talking about this because I spoke with a colleague about something very similar earlier today. We do work with all sorts of organizations, and right now we're working with a government group. And to your point, I absolutely agree. I think that application of this process on any problem, whatever it is, would be very, very beneficial. But sometimes the approach doesn't always work in a straightforward manner. And so one of the things we were talking about was, okay, so we want to get to X, but we're over here. And so what are some of the things that we have to kind of work, some of the other issues that are getting in the way of accomplishing a facilitation or getting people to sit together without fighting.
Filibustering.
Exactly, and wasting time and really not resolving anything. What are some of the things we have to do kind of up front to then go in through the back door and do a facilitation and actually solve some problems and so forth. So I would say go for it, but just know up front, and we can talk later, but know up front that there's going to be some other stuff that's happening culturally, maybe politically, then each group that you work with has a history. And so there's just some things you got to work through before you can get to it, but I think you can get to it. And boy, if you could, awesome. We'll elect you president.
No, I don't.
Oh, you don't? Oh, okay. All right.
Maybe vice president. Never
Okay.
And
Whatever.
We have a student that works with a world body, and what he said was that you go and you do the work and nothing may ever come of it, but if it does, it will be significant. And so going into it, he understands what he's up against and knows that, maybe 80% of the attempts, maybe that light bulb, it'll be the 101 light bulb that worked, the other 100 didn't. But if you have the persistence, then you can continue, and if you have that vision of where you see it going, then you begin to, and as teachers, we know that often somebody might come back 20 years later, and you didn't think you made much of an impact, and lo and behold, they tell you, what actually occurred. So sometimes as facilitators or people that go in and do teaching and training, you wonder about your impact.
Absolutely. So, yeah, you will touch lives doing that. And whether you change one mind or, hundreds, that's yet to be seen. But I think the capacity is there. So I would do it.
It's exciting.
Okay, yeah.
What types of things have you ladies done in the organizations you work? What types of things have you done to the physical environment in the organizations you work to foster creativity?
I have toys everywhere. And so I get this big fishbowl too with, okay, now I have to make sure I say it right. SpongeBob SquarePants.
Very good.
Right.
I used to call them Square Bob Sponge Pants. Very confused. My kids knew who I was talking about. So yeah, lots of toys, inspirational things on the walls, that type of thing. We try to keep it fun. And we'll use different toys and things that we can share with folks that come into sessions. We recently did a session on social styles, so we're talking about personality styles, and we got little flamingo pens. They were bright pink with feathers coming off, wonderful. So anything that'll kind of get folks to relax and set the tone, and usually colorful things, things they can play with and handle and take with them, seems to work for us.
Well, Diego and I were actually just having this conversation. I work in a computer lab, so what do you do with the computer lab? I mean, the computers, the desks are there, you can't move them. But it's not about the physical space. It's what we do with the technology. So the technology I choose to purchase for the school and the technology I choose to use, I have Vision on my computer that I can shoot a chat to all of the students' computers. So that's my brainstorming tool. I ask a question and I'm going to shoot you a chat. Make sure you don't chat, that you just brainstorm ideas. And so there's all, smart technology with the smart notebook software where you can move things around. The technology is allowing us we can highlight things on the smart board. You don't need a highlighter. There's virtual Post-it notes. There's virtual everything. So all the tools that we use in creative studies there's virtual tools. And that's what I use in the computer lab, is all those virtual tools to help, with creativity as the students are using the computers to do creative things with content.
We use humor a lot too, whether it's in our department or in the classroom. We use a lot of humor. But you would have to use something that's natural for you. And I don't mean to tell jokes, but just, to kind of approach it in almost a whimsical, fashion and engage folks, and then, continue that so that you're setting the stage and they're comfortable, they're laughing, and they're learning. You kind of, it's amazing how much they can learn when they're relaxed, but humor seems to help too.
I have the differentiated instruction program is one of 4 in the graduate education department. So the directors of each program are in this little suite. So there's 4 offices. One is education administration, the other is deaf education, and the other is college personnel. And mine is over in the corner, and it's kind of funny because I cannot stand overhead lights. So I turn the lights out, and I have my little white lights. That calms me. And I have the little lights that, little table lamps. And I do have a window, thank goodness. But, I have artwork, and I have toys everywhere, and just little things from, my kids on the wall. But it's funny because Canisius College is a little bit more straight-laced, or the faculty anyway. And once they got used to the fact that there's this, they call me the creativity girl on the corner. Well, it's great. We all get along incredibly well, and we, give it back to each other. But the director of the education administration, he's always coming in and just giving me flack and grief about everything in my room, how tacky my lights are and everything. But it's funny because my office is really where the meeting places. Everybody kind of gravitates, and I I wonder why you're coming to my office, Yours doesn't look so nice over there, So we have fun with it, but that's I think just sort of spreading it to my peers, in a way that's not, not pushing it on anybody, but they're experiencing something different and something new, and they don't completely understand what differentiated instruction is, and I'm not sure that they, a couple of them even really care, but they, we enjoy the conversations, and So, you know, I be myself and share with them, you know, what it is that helps me become more creative in my learning day to day. And I think I'm rubbing off on them a little bit. It's kind of fun.
Well, and we deliberately look for, because we use videos to help train, and so we deliberately look for things that do include humor. And one of the latest things that we purchased is called Leadership Pickles. I don't know if anyone has heard of the Leadership Pickle. And so we hand out pickles, and you know, you have them all over the materials and everything. And the video itself is very engaging. It's lots of fun, but they learn. And I think after a while you kind of get a reputation for, oh yeah, there's the pickle girl, or you know, whatever.
So it was the fish market,
It
now
was
it's
the fish.
pickles.
Now, yeah. Well, first it was mice. Remember, the
Oh,
mice
okay,
would
that's right.
change. Then it was fish. Now it's pickles. And actually, we have another one, and I can't think of the topic, but it was really funny. It was some guy, that poor guy, had to relive his day like 4 times before he got
Groundhog
it
Day?
right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So there was a lot of humor, but it had a very powerful message. So we spend time looking for those because they're just more engaging, you know.
And we, at Creative Studies, we just came out of a vision meeting a little while ago,
Yeah.
and we're limited in our space. When you look at the physical space, we've done some things to try and spice it up a bit. And when people, like, we're in the conference room
Yeah.
with the nice chairs, and everybody's like, yeah, you know, it's just a better spot. But one of our big goals, what do they call it, big, fat, audacious, or hairy goal?
Big
or
hairy
what's that?
goals,
Big hairy
yeah.
goal,
Yeah.
is our own building. So, you know, when you picture it in your mind, it's like if you've ever been on, you know, the IDEO site, obviously, but the Royal Mail site, where things change and walls move. It's almost like being in Harry Potter. And, you know, wouldn't that be nice
Yeah.
in the future to build that?
I'm gonna come when you do that.
Absolutely.
Nobody will ever leave.
I have to tell you a funny story about what you're talking about. In creative studies, we were able to do creative things, and when we were facilitated, we had, you know, our chance to facilitate. We could do creative things. So here I am taking creative studies classes. It was my 2nd year teaching, and the principal asks me to please teach an in-service to the teachers about creativity. So I said, sure, I would do that. You know, 2nd year teacher can teach all the. But I wanted to create this ambiance and this environment. So here I am, 2nd year teacher, totally naive. I brought music and wine and cheese. To this in-service. I had this great in-service, but the next day I got called into the principal's office, and he said, you can't bring wine into the school. I didn't know, but, you know,
Yeah.
I got away with it.
Create the
And I thought,
environment.
damn it, I was that fun person who
Yeah.
brought wine to the in-service.